generative AI. So far, we have gone through like 6 layers, like data engineering, data science, ML, DL, and NLP. Now this is generative AI. So until now, we have taught machines how to understand. Now we are teaching machines how to create. So this is the biggest shift in AI history. So traditional AI helps in predicting something, wherein generative AI, can produce the content. Think about it, right? So a spam classifier. For example, you have Gmail. In Gmail, right? You see automatically some emails gets classified into spam and they store in spam folder. So a traditional spam detector tells us like whether an email is spam or not. But in generative AI, it will help you to draft the email or reply the email or create the text for based on, suppose if you say this is my email, can you help me with the reply? This is actually gives again write the email itself. So similarly, if I apply this one to other examples, like if a traditional image classifier, right? So image classifier says that if this is a cat, right? So a generative AI model can, create a brand new cat image that never existed before. Suppose if you want to put like a cat in a Dubai, or in Paris Eiffel Tower top, it is actually in a different mode. Something if you classify, right? So it creates. You can create anything using the image generation tools, right? So this is why the world suddenly became, excited after ChatGPT launched. So AI, kind of moved from analysis to creation, right? So simply, right? So traditional AI, it examines the data and it try to build a relationship. Wherein generative AI, it's authoritative. It just work as an author. It creates something, right? So let's see what are the different algorithms that are available. Different models exist on Gen AI, GPT-based models. We'll discuss in detail. Okay, so what this generative really means? So generative AI. So everyone knows that, okay, in ChatGPT, if I give a prompt, it actually generates something. So this is one of the most important thing you should understand. A lot of people get still confused. So people think that AI is only for prediction, right? Like, will the customer churn? Will this loan, the customer ID get default? Will this transaction be a fraud? Will this image contain a defect? All right. So, but this generative AI is a bit different, right? Instead of giving a label, it creates new content. That's the reason it says generative, right? So, if I say that, hey, can you help me in writing a marketing email? It will help you if you give a context. Or if say that, hey, can you generate a product description? So if you put an image and say, ask for product description, it will help you create a customer response, build a PowerPoint presentation. There are tools like, there are so many AI-based tools, Gen AI-based tools to create a PPTs, right? So even ChatGPT helps in creating a PPT. So code, if you just give a prompt, hey, this is my data set, this is my column 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you help me in building logistic regression, right? So it will generate the code and images, videos, songs, you name it. Okay. So simple. If I bring this to our shop sphere, right? We applied the sentiment analysis for using NLP. The review is negative or positive. So if I put Gen AI, maybe generate a polite apology email to the same customer where the negative review exists and offer a coupon. So see how difference it is, like huge difference, right? So through NLP, I able to classify whether it is positive or negative, right? So after that, if you identify the customer ID, you can use generative AI and create a polite apology email for the delay and then offer a coupon so that you are planning to, that helps in retaining the customers. Okay, so that's generative AI. This is what actually I mentioned here, create. So LLMs. Okay, wherein in NLP I mean people call it as short language models, wherein here it is large language models. Okay, large language models. Most people think ChatGPT knows everything. Actually, it does one surprisingly simple thing, right? It predicts the next word. Suppose if you type something saying twinkle, twinkle, it actually twinkle, twinkle, little, then it will predict the next word as star. Why? Your brain learned patterns, right? So similarly, I mean, suppose if a child, if you ask a twinkle, twinkle, you already trained the child, then automatically the child will respond saying the star, right? Something like that. So LLMs also work similarly. During the training, they read trillions of words. Trillions of words. Imagine the World Wide Web, the entire World Wide Web. World Wide Web means what? The base, the host, the space where it hosts all of the websites, the entire world websites, right? Imagine how much data you have. Right? So this LLMs, GPTs, they read trillions of words, books, Wikipedia, articles, websites, research papers, documentation, coding, everything. So while they build this ChatGPT, the developers made the model to train everything, understand what is this, whatever you say, documents, websites, research papers, everything, they fed into the model. They learn patterns between words. Then they keep predicting, right? So one token, then another token, then another token. So thousands of times per second. Okay. So thousands of times per second. So that's why large language models, parameters, if you see billions to trillion parameters, right? So this is not a simple statistic, exploratory data analysis or machine learning, something like that. This is something bigger than this. It's a large language model. Right? So imagine a child who has read every library in the world. Imagine there is a 10-year-old child who has read every library in the world. Now, if you ask, can you write a poem? Do you think the child, go and search in Google? No, right? Because he read everything in the world. So automatically it predicts something, whatever it comes, and then generates. That is what an LLM does actually. Large language models, as it is trained on trillions of parameters, the words, meanings, research papers, documents. When you prompt something, it will search and help you to respond. I mean, help you with the response. Okay. So nowadays, if like most of the people they use ChatGPT, coding, summarization, translation, right? So you have 10 page document. You don't have time. You can simply upload into ChatGPT if it is not confidential. Please don't do confidential things, okay? If you have a confidential document, if it is from your organization, please don't directly upload into ChatGPT. That is compliance, right? So any personal document, it will help you to read and summarize it, right? So that is LLMs. Again, it's a predict the next token. This is the base concept, and it is fed millions, billions, trillions of parameters. Right? If you say just the capital of Francis, so it predicts, it says it's Paris because it is trained. The model, large language model trained on that topic. Again, how it works? Same concept like text, embeddings, vector search, and then win the response. I'll discuss, when we do a practical exercise on Gen. Okay. Okay, right now, where are we in 2026? What are the top models of LLMs, right? So one is, I mean, there is no single AI model. So many. Think of smartphone, right? How many brands you have? Apple, Samsung, Google, OnePlus. So each one has their own strengths. Each one has their own, opportunities for emerge, right? Similarly, the LLMs, the GPT models also evolving, and these are the top few models, right? So Claude. So the first one is Claude Anthropic Claude family. So right now I think 4+ series is going on. So this is for long documents if you have long documents to summarize. And this is also bit safe, when you compare with other models. The data, whatever you put in as a prompt, it is safe. Okay. And enterprise level, there is a way you can customize the application to safeguard your enterprise data. For reasoning also, this is the best. Okay, this is the most advanced model I could say. Claude, this is really doing great, right? Then it comes to the key thing, right? So the GPT, these are the guys who 3 years back when they started, the entire world came to know about this generative AI. So this is best for tools of coding or agents. This is really good. Open AI's ChatGPT. Gemini is good if your data is on Google Cloud Platform. It's easy, to exchange API information and create some content and all. This is good for, and also because that's what main is workspace. If you are leveraging GCP, Google's workspace, then it's good for you to use Gemini family. So it saves cost and time, right? And then Metas, right? So this is also, Llama 3. It's a bit old model, but yeah, these are good. You can actually um, based on your need, you can take the call, but it is no one can conclude which one is the best, right? So, and what else we have? Yeah, no model can conclude that this is the best. It has everything, no nothing. Okay, so choose the model. You see which one is giving accurate, content for you. Then based on that, you can make a call. Okay, as that's about different models right now in 2026. Let's see how it evolves and what sort of new models will come soon, right? Then the prompt engineering essentials, right? So most people think AI is magic. Actually, many bad results, come from bad prompts. What is prompt? The moment you open ChatGPT, so it says that, hey, how can I help you? You just say, hey, can you help me writing a poem on natural, nature, for example, poem on nature. It try to, create something. So a prompt is very, very important. Suppose if I say that, hey, can you write description? What description, right? So there is no specific ask here, right? Uh, just like, if you go to a chef and say, hey, can you cook something? He picks something, he randomly come up with some dish. And you will get something, but probably that is not, what actually you wanted, right? So that's what I'm saying. So prompting is important. Prompting itself, it tells how creative you are, how intelligent you are, right? So that's what I'm saying. So there is a very, very, I could say, because it's again human, right? Suppose if you're communicating something, hey, I need water, versus, hey, can you please give me some water? So it actually changed the entire story. Similarly, while you are prompting, make sure that you give as much as detail possible to the GPT transformer so that it will understand the entire context and it try to bring the relevant information and create the content, right? So instead of write description or write a product description, you say that, hey, can you write a 3 sentence product description of the audience is so and so and about some running shoes during the rain season, something. If you give more context, right, what it will do, and you can actually give whatever words if you want to put it in, if you want to put that in your website, right? Give a SEO keywords and call to action or something, right? So also different prompts, you see different outcomes. That's why prompting is very, very important, right? So make sure that so this is what actually example I have given, same example, description for running shoes. This is a not a good prompt, wherein if you give like 3 4 lines saying that can you give for age, tone, etc., etc., if you give more and more context, right, the GPTs works really well. That is the important thing. So it's called prompt engineering. Okay, so how actually machines learn through prompts, right? So it's up to you how you give the prompt. So make sure that you give as much as context, especially if you are, planning to write some code, because it's no need to go through Python basics and every programming concept and learn, right? Understand the basics at a high level and write the prompt and get the code and validate it. At least you check the logic, check the output, make sure that it is making sense to the business. So in this case, what you need, you have to give the best prompt as detailed as possible, like this. Okay. Now, so some detail, information, some topics related to these are LLMs and Gen AI, right? Tokens, context windows, and limits. So what is this tokens, right? So people often ask, why can't ChatGPT remember everything? The answer is context window. So if you see on the left-hand side, the old chart history, so it remembers, it memorizes, right? So imagine a whiteboard, right? The AI can only see what fits on the whiteboard. Once it fills up, the information gets erased. Similarly, so you have to make sure that you create a project and you give the context as much as possible to um, get the accurate response. So basically, why token is important is, for example, there is a limit. Again, if you are a free user of ChatGPT or Claude, per month, let's say this is the limit, this is the quota. After that, it start charge. It actually costs. You have to pay for it, right? Similarly, if you are building an enterprise level system by using any GPTs for any of your question answering or chatbot, etc. So if this particular context window, if you have not optimized, then you have to bring more and more tokens. That's actually cost and memory. That's the reason. So this is very important to have this chunking. So why chunking exists? 50, say 500 page document exceeds, just I mentioned, right? So there's a company handbook. The model cannot process everything efficiently. So then we split into chunks, right? So then, of course, we'll bring RAG, retrieve, and help in that one. I'll explain in a minute. Okay, after hallucination, we'll discuss what is RAG and all. But yeah, so chunking is one wherein you kind of what you call to as model cannot process heavy handbook, you split data documents into chunks so that machine can start reading the relevant chunks. Okay, if you bring RAG, it is more relevant. Okay, so hallucination. So hallucination is, I think, probably the most misunderstood concept in AI, right? So AI can sound confident, but still be wrong. So let me give a simple example. So here, let's say if I ask a prompt, I mean, if I give a prompt, if I ask a question, who won 2030 World Cup or 2032 World Cup, before World Cup, for example. So what it will do, it may generate some convincing answer, right? So, but 2032 hasn't happened, right? So it invented it. That's what I'm saying. So hallucination is something where GPTs may understand something else that what not actually you mean while you're prompting, right? So LLMs optimized, I mean, what sounds likely, but not for the verification. So they are not verified. So they clearly I mentioned here, not verified truth. LLMs, plausible text, not verified truth. So they sometimes can state false facts with complete confidence and fluent prose. This is important. That's why you have to make sure that your prompt is valid and your output also valid. You have to spend. That's the reason. So I mention this so many times whenever I talk to students, right? So AI never replace humans. AI can only help to optimize your time and cost so that you can efficiently do more things. Okay. So, if I give a simple example, right? So, let's say there is a student who doesn't know anything, the answer, for example, one question answer he doesn't know in the examination. So, instead of, I think you and me also might have did the same thing when were in school and colleges, right? So, instead of ignoring it blank, what we do, we try to put something, right? Some relevant stuff, something, right? So they sometimes, sounds intelligent, but that is not accurate, right? So that is actually hallucination, right? So hallucination. So it actually imagines this which is not really exist, but actually release or respond as a existing one. So you have to make sure that you validate that one. Maybe I'll give a simple example and another example of a corporate example or shop spear example, right? So what is, if I say, what is company's refund policy, right? So we have not fed the refund policy in the GPT right. So what it will do, it try to pull something and generate something. But if it responds this through an email to a customer, there's a legal risk. So that is why grounding is very, very critical. Okay, of course, RAG brings the context that I'll discuss in a minute, but make sure that the validation is very, very important. Hallucination is the biggest problem. Okay, so you have to make sure the output is true or correct. So how do you avoid that? You try to bring your RAG system so that it will try to get extracted the relevant or the relevant information that assuming something beyond the whatever product categories that you're working for, right? So that is RAG. Now, I hope you understand why RAG exists, right? After hallucination, we discussed just now. Hallucination is if you prompt something, if your LLMs don't know that answer, but still they respond something. So this may not 100% true. So to avoid these scenarios in business context, given the reason that there are chances that you may have to face some legal consequences if you share something wrong to the customer or your competitor or your vendors or suppliers, right? So RAG is retrieval augmented generation. So this framework, basically the most important enterprise level architecture today. Okay. So what is the problem, right? LLM don't know your company's latest information. If I say that, okay, my company, let's say the Mindress AI. So how many students right now are attending agentic AI 2-month program, for example, right? So if I ask this question, I just giving like, okay, I'll put one more contest in the mindrace.ai. So it will go to my website, it will search, there is no information about it. So it will say that, okay, some information. So that is hallucination. So the problem is that our internal information is not trained to the LLM, whether it is a Claude or GPT or anything, right? So whatever is available openly, the public information, it actually extracts and respond to you, create the content, but not internal documents. In that scenario, it's the safest thing actually. RAG is more secured. Okay, you can definitely use it for your internal purposes. So RAG, how it does, what it does basically is first it asks the question. So you use a question. Then it will actually, the system searches for company documents. So these documents you already stored somewhere, right? So based on the question, it will search in the documents and actually it brings the relevant content. I could say that relevant content is retrieved. This is context. Inject the context. Relevant is retrieved. That is why it's retrieval augmented generation. Right? Then these documents are given to LLM. So obviously any NLP algorithm will find the respective answer, whatever is required for you, and create the content. Okay, simple. I'll simplify. Just you have your product one, product two, product three. These are some unique products, right? So these three products description is 10 documents, let's say, is stored in 10 documents. You bring these 10 documents to your LLMs to through RAG. Through RAG, it is secured. Only your team can access. No one else can access. ChatGPT won't access. Just only memorize it temporarily and then get the context, get the relevant information. Okay, so this is where your hallucination means the information which was not trained, the information which is not available publicly, which is only specific to your organization, that can be also trained and summarized and extracted whatever content you need for as an answer. That is RAG. Okay. So if I give a simple layman example, right? Without RAG, student answers from memory, right? So with RAG, if I ask student to open the textbook and tell me the answer, what the student will do? Gives 100% accurate answer, right? That is RAG, simple. So you have asked a question to a student, whatever he can memorize or whatever is there in his memory, he can extract and respond. But if he don't know, he can't. Then if you ask the student, same student, open the textbook and now search the answer, tell me, then he can read out, right? So that is the purpose. Now you can think of your pharma, okay, banking, any industry, internal documents. If you want to customize GenAI application to help your users with some prompt and responses, right? Then RAG is the best, architecture to intervene for your GenAI, for your LLMs to optimize your user experience. Okay. Now, Shopspeare's grounded help bot and description writer. So this is one use case. Okay, so let's see how generative AI creates business value for our Shopspeare, right? So use case one, for example, product description writer. So you have to input an image of product, right? Or maybe simply product name, color, material, size, and feature, some sort of image if possible. Then what it will do, it start giving a description for your product, right? So that is one. Before that, it's just like a what you call as if you have 50,000 products, it's impossible for human to write the descriptions and all, right? Now every day you see different products are coming up in our e-commerce portal, right? That's why in seconds you can actually. See, copyright is 30 minutes per product. 30 minutes. They used to spend 30 minutes per product. Now this is getting generated in seconds for 50K products in one weekend. See how powerful it is. But you have to make sure you have enough information like about the product, price, brand, some images, etc. If you just put everything, then it will give the detailed description. So you can put that description into your product page. Right? Suppose another example, RAG. If I bring RAG here, right? If customer asks that, hey, can I return a sale item? So means he purchased the item is on sale, some offer. So he's asking, can I return a sale item? Where my order ID is 4821. So this bot basically retrieves the policy from whatever chunk of documents, right? From Shopspeare's knowledge base, then generate whatever answer is relevant, but it never invents a policy. It has to go to the internal RAG system, whatever internal stored documents come with the relevant information. It cannot or it never invent something, right? So if there is more critical, then probably bot will route this to a human agent with full context so that it is taken care with the right solution. So that is, these are the two simple examples, like product description can be generated if you give images, brand details, and some small notes about the product. So it will generate whatever number of words that you require as a description. RAG, you can actually put your all internal policy documents, so your RAG retrieves and help consumers questions related to your policies. Okay, so let me start with one of the most common and expensive mistakes that companies or organizations make when building enterprise level AI systems, right? So imagine a company wants ChatGPT to answer some questions about its written policy, right? So, or maybe like, employee handbook. So this employee handbook, or let's say pricing rules, right? Or some processes, internal process. So most teams, right, immediately say, let's fine tune the model, right? So they spend weeks collecting documents, training the data, and playing for model customization, right? And pay. So it's cost, huge cost, because every token is cost associated with some cost, right? So finally, the model learns the company's policies sound okay, right? But then 1 month later, let's say there is a change in the written policy, right? So now the model is outdated. So to teach the new policy, they may have to fine tune again, right? So then another policy changes, then another. So so they realized they created a lot of work for themselves. So it's like, carving information into a stone statue. Every time something changes, you have to carve the statue again. So what they actually needed was a whiteboard, something easy to update. You just fill. If it is not relevant, then again start writing it. So, okay. So the better way, to think about this is when working with Gen AI, right? So think of three levels or three tools. Simple. Okay. Always start with the simplest option. Right? The first one, prompt engineering. So don't directly jump into fine tuning. It's heavy, time and cost consuming. So prompt engineering. This is simple, right? This is simply writing kind of, better instructions. I think I already given a lighter note on this earlier also. So there is no new model, new training required, just better communication with the AI. So you put more and more prompts, validated prompts by the business people, right? So that machine will learn from those prompts, and you of course validate the response, right? So you're strengthening your model, right? So instead of giving a simple layman like vague prompt, like write a description, instead of getting generic responses, right? So you give more prompts. So that's actually best for these general tasks, quick tasks. Okay, the cost is almost negligible, like near zero. Right? So always try this first, whatever situation you have, right? So then, the second one it comes, the second tool. Now, suppose the information changes frequently, right? Like company policies, product catalog, inventory, employee handbook, whatever things, right? Every time they're changing. So, our customer frequently asks questions. In this situation, prompting alone is not enough, right? So, this is where RAG comes in. So, Shakespeare example, if a customer is asking, can I return a product after 45 days? Instead of relying on memory, right? The AI first searches the company's knowledge base. It finds the latest written policy, then it answers using whatever response, it's yes or no, whatever information is relevant, right? If the company changes its written policy tomorrow, you simply update the document. No need to retrain the entire model by giving more prompts and fine tuning, etc. Right? So just update the document so your model will be the same. So automatically it will pick the relevant information. So no retraining, no rebuilding. Yeah, automatically start using the new information. That's why RAG is so powerful, right? Whenever there is a change in the facts, the data so automatically gets changed as it's a proprietary, internal proprietary, and of course, the security and all things will be there for sure. No one will access your internal documents, right? You have to set your model in such a way that you just access the tokens only to get the semantic meaning of the prompt, and search and extraction, everything happens through the internal documents, right? So that's about right, the second important one, right? So maybe if I give a simple example, right? So prompting is asking a smart student from a memory, right? Suppose if you ask something there's a smart student in the class, right? So he can easily memorize and tell. That's prompting, right? So because he's already smart, it's trained like that. But in RAG, he's kind of ask the student to open the textbook and read the answer, right? So the second one is more reliable because I don't want to take any risk because it's a test based. If something wrong goes as an output to my customer or vendor or supplier, it's a compliance issue, right? So that is actually RAG system. I hope you're following because this is important. A lot of people they spend time and start with fine tuning because there's a lot of money and time involved here. So don't directly jump into fine tuning. So first focus on prompt if it is a general task related problem statement, or if it is something related to the policies and more document refinement, search, etc. Then go for with RAG. Put a RAG system, RAG pipeline, so that your prompt will go through the RAG and get the appropriate response, right? Then the third one is fine tuning. So it's the most expensive option, right? When should we actually use it is not for company policies or not for product catalogs. So this is useful when you want the model to behave differently. Suppose a consistent brand voice. If you want to put a style or tone or a kind of legal document format, right? So there is a specific thing that you want your Gen AI system to or internal bot to respond, right? Structured outputs. Every time there is a structure, there is a customized thing, right? So these are the behavior problems, right? Not knowledge problems. So when there is a knowledge issue, then you fork on your RAG and prompt. This is behavior. So a response is fine, but I need in a proper document here, legal document format or in a medical report format or industry tone. Suppose if you want a tone is relevant to a particular business spokesperson, something like that. Okay, fine tuning always focus on the tone format of the output or a behavior of the output, not the knowledge. The knowledge only you can improvise through your RAG system, right? So now if I I mean, let's go back to our Shopspeare example, right? So if we want every product description to sound exactly like Apple marketing, with the elegant and very minimal words, a premium tone, right? Every time the same tone. Then you have to use fine tuning. Okay. So we'll see how this fine tuning, RAG, and prompt engineering this really matters when you work on a Gen AI system. We will work on example for Shopspeare, and I'll explain. Okay, so this is again I'm repeating. So make sure that don't directly jump into fine tuning. So focus on prompt engineering first. If it's a generic task, if it is more knowledge-based retrieval stuff, then use RAG pipeline, RAG systems. If it is more kind of style, a relevant format, a tone, if you want to follow something premium, then go for fine tuning. Okay, so vector databases in practice. What are these vector databases, right? So basically, just let me give a simple example. You ask something here, a student, so he go back and search a textbook, right? Suppose if you are whatever you are asking, that should be in this textbook, right? Suppose if you're asking beyond this textbook, what it will do, what he will do, he just try to recall based on, I mean, whatever his memory, he try to put something and respond. So just apply the same logic in generative AI also. When actually you're using RAG system, so RAG system will touch your internal database, internal repository, respond, retrieve, get the semantic meaning, respond, give the content, whatever content that you're asking for, right? So this vector database is a kind of embeddings. It's a dense numerical representation. Sometime back we discussed, right? Make them searchable by similarity, not exact match actually, by semantic meaning, right? So just textbook example, he will search if he is not able to find the textbook, he will search in another textbook which is relevant information is available where somewhere, right? So not exact match, but semantic nearness. Speed, of course, scale and speed because it's AI. I mean, it will work and extract if something is relevant to be extracted for the prompt that is user has been given. Okay, so when a RAG system needs a relevant policy chunks for a user question, the query is basically, let's say, this is a simple example. It's querying a vector database. So give me the embeddings most similar to this question. So these are options right now. Pinecone, VV8, QDRAND. What is this all like vector databases? Just imagine another repository, another embeddings in a vector form repository wherein when user asks something, this prompt goes to this after your RAG. Still there is semantic is missing. It go and try to get that search exact words and etc. and get the response back and generate the content. Okay, so there are few more actually. For pharma, there is a specific pharma related, banking related, some vector databases. When you use leverage these vector databases, your RAG output will be more accurate because you there is sometime back we discussed one thing, right? What is the refund policy? So refund policy, there is no exact word refund policy available in internal documents, for example. Then what it will do, it may use some vector database, get the semantics search, semantic meaning, try to bring the relevant information from the internal documents, right? So these are like few examples. So production ready, easy to start, best for teams who don't want to manage infrastructure. So you no need to build your own vector base create a vector base using your documents, right? But you can instead use the already built vector database. To conclude, in a layman language, when you are searching something in the textbook, if 100% relevant information is not available, you go and search somewhere, right? So you open another textbook, or maybe you ask your friend relevant information, he shares something, then you come back to your textbook and collate something and then give the response to the user. This is in a simple language. So we'll see how these will be helpful in our example when we do worked out example, right? Then this is again a bit important topic, a theoretical topic, before we start our workout example, a practical example, right? Multimodal, guardrails, and evaluation. These things you have to keep in mind. This generative AI is multimodal generation. You can actually generate a text, images, audios, videos in a single from a single interface. Okay, for example, uh, I'm giving a small image and I'm giving some text as a prompt and I'm giving some audio saying that, okay, can you use all these things? Help me with, the product description, a detailed product description. So it's a multi-modal. It is not only text generation. It is not only transforming the text to text. It is only audio to audio. It is not only video to video. It's something else. It's a multi-modal generation. Most enterprise value today is the code generation. So code along with the commits, documentation. These are the some things that you have to make sure you understand and speak when you are talking to someone about AI and Gen AI, right? Guardrails. What is this guardrails? This is basically safety mechanism. Why this is important? So this is very, very important, especially if you are working for an enterprise, right? So you prompt something and you built a model, you have internal documents here. And when you are not safeguarding your prompt and your RAG system properly, anyone, whoever is using the OpenAI, there are chances that may misuse this information. Or in the organization itself, if you're working for a marketing function, you should not allow any other organization, like within the organization, should not allow other functional users to access your content. Okay, so never unconstrained the output. So you have to make sure that you put proper filter, you put block harmful output and validate. I'm sorry. Okay, so this is important. You get to see, when you work on, especially the agentic AI and Gen AI stuff, guardrails is very, very, very important. One of the key thing you have to define your safety mechanism before you start accessing the OpenAI stuff through an API call. Okay, output evaluation. So, I mean, unlike our legacy machine learning like linear regression, logistic regression, so here we cannot say that this is the metric that tells our Gen AI model is 100% accurate. There are a few like LLM, right? So there are judge rubrics are there, human spot checks are there. Manually, we do some checks, and automated regression tests are there, right? So if you use frameworks like LangChain, Llama Index, right? So they are kind of, you can observe how actually it is generating the text. So you have to definitely randomly pick some responses and validate it. There are a few measures like we discussed earlier, but there is no 100%, you cannot conclude saying this is the 100% best model, best output for the prompt, right? It's always kind of, the you have to validate a few and make sure that it is learning, there is no hallucination, etc. Right, so this is theory about our generative AI. We learn what is generative AI, what is LLMs, what is hallucination, what is a RAG, how important to have RAG and fine tuning for based on the need. And we have discussed a couple of use cases for our Shakespeare. Now let's do. And also we discussed the guardrails and evaluation metrics about how they are important to deploy your Gen AI system to make sure that the data is not getting spread out or shared out, out of or outputs also not shared out of your system, internal systems, right? So now let's do one example, hands-on example on Gen AI.